Speakers, let's see what we have. Jennifer West from Water Reuse California. Appropriately first.
Push the button. Mic on. All right, I am Jennifer West. I'm the Managing Director of Water Reuse California. Good morning. I want to start by thanking the staff for their tremendous effort on these guidelines. Not only have they done workshops up and down the state, but they've met with me and my members many, many times individually, talking, explaining Proposition 1, explaining the Clean Water SRF. It's really been a very good process. And as Dan mentioned, he's encouraged project proponents to come in and meet with them early. So I'm hoping that this will really help in terms of project delivery and expedite the funds for Proposition 1, which is what we all would like to see. In general, Water Reuse supports the guidelines as proposed, and specifically the cap at $15 million for the construction funds and $20 million for disadvantaged communities. And our understanding of this process, as Dan explained, has that those loans, those monies will pay back on the loans and make grants available in years 4, 5, 6. And that's really important because we have a lot of really big projects coming online, and it's important that those be funded as well. So that's what we are in support of. We also do want to say that we think it's important that there be a provision put into the guidelines that this be reviewed annually. We think the $15 million cap is the right point at this part. We think it's important that the environmental documentation be part of that, but a lot can change in the future. And as the drought gets worse, we think it's important that this be reviewed annually to make sure that we're meeting the right spot, the sweet spot, as Dan likes to call it. We understand that at this point, the proposal is to use the intended use plan of the Clean Water SRF for that review. That's what you've put in your response to comments. And we appreciate that, but we think it would be more transparent to put it right in the guidelines so it's clear for others to see that that's how this will be reviewed. Is that my time? I'll finish quickly here. As Dan mentioned, we would also like to see the planning cap raised. We understand that the language in Proposition 1 doesn't allow for that, but we continue to feel that we'll agree to disagree on that point. Finally, I want to applaud you for putting planning grant or putting funding for potable reuse projects in the draft for the pilot projects in the draft guidelines. We think this is very important as we move towards DPR, that we will have these pilot projects available to us. And in closing, we want to see these broad projects available and this funding available for all different kinds of projects in the state. We have tremendous opportunity with potable reuse, but we also have non-potable projects that have great multi-benefits for agricultural and other projects. So we are excited that both of these types of projects can be funded. With that, I will conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all your support. Next, we have Sean Bothwell from the California Coast Keepers.
Good morning, Chair Marcus, board members. My name is Sean Bothwell. I'm the staff attorney for the California Coast Keeper Alliance. Today I'm here on behalf of the California Water Partnership. We are a coalition of 7 organizations dedicated to securing a sustainable and equitable water future for California. Our partnership advocates for adoption and implementation of the principles and practices of integrated water management. And our work ensures that water management practices benefit both the public health and our environment and for all Californians. I wanted to start by also thanking staff for a really thoughtful and very leveraged recycling grant program. I came here a couple months ago on the DPR informational item and requested that the state board use all its tools possible to really leverage that Prop 1 funding, and I think this program does an excellent job of that through the state revolving fund. I also requested that some of the money be dedicated for water recycling research that would move us forward and really become leaders on potable recycled water and DPR specifically. So I want to thank staff for the 2% dedication for water recycling research and for the pilot programs. My one ask there is, it's my understanding that the water quality unit at the State Water Board will be the ones deciding what projects will go forward, will get the grants. And I would just ask that the drinking water unit also be part of that conversation. I think the research really is going to be more focused on the drinkable recycled water research and pilot projects, and they probably know better where those research gaps are.
Problem with that, right? Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
There are some improvements that we would like to see made. We understand that because of the drought that we want to get the money out as quickly as possible for drought relief effort. But sometimes the projects that are ready to go, getting money out quickly might not always result in the best multi-benefit projects being funded. And so I would just ask that there be, a balance between drought relief and integrated water management. And to do that, I think just like water reuse, we would like to see, monitoring to make sure that the funding, if it does go out very quickly, that it doesn't go necessarily all to purple pipe projects right away. And then if we do see that trend happening, that the prioritization section of the program be implemented quicker than what's currently considered. Real fast.
Just before you finish, and this won't take up your time. I mean, you'll be coming to us regularly on this. Hard to think of an issue we're more interested in monitoring the progress on. So we should be able to see if we think we're running into anything. But our experience has also been, though, that it is important to say that our first come, first serve kind of attitude, it's not complete, gets people moving. Because you'd be surprised at how many good ideas just seem to sit on somebody's desk and not move. So it's that balance between, hey, guys, let's go, and waiting for the perfect project. But
that's right. And
what you're suggesting is absolutely something we're interested in.
That's right.
That's the tension.
I understand the balance, but if for some reason we see the money going really quickly, all purple pipe, then maybe we reconsider.
Except, no, wait. I was really offended by the letter, actually, on dissing purple pipe in favor of DPR. We don't even know for sure that we will even get a positive recommendation from the Blue Ribbon Science Committee on DPR. We have got to do what can be done, and DPR, quite frankly, is not an immediate drought response. So just be careful about how you handle purple pipe.
Just to clarify,
go ahead.
We're fine with purple pipe. Our concern was that if all the, we talk to the water recycling industry a lot. We know there's a lot of projects out there, and a lot of projects could take all the funding immediately. And we just wanted to make sure, I wasn't focusing on just DPR because I completely agree with what you said that we don't even have that recommendation. It was about potable recycled water projects. So IPR, surface water augmentation, which will be ready. The regs are being developed, will be ready in a year. And if all the funding is gone and they don't have the regulations, I know, I'm just saying, I just want to see a precautionary approach of monitoring it to make sure. I think we're on the same.
If this is a problem, that's going to be good. No, because it just means we're going to move recycle. I think the point that it's not just that. I think the leavener to it is just that I think we're going to be evolving on a number of tracks, because there's the whole fit for purpose kind of approach too, that you don't have to treat everything to pristine drinking water standards from a GHG or a energy or a financial perspective in order to use it appropriately. So there's some mix, but I see the thing you're worried about, and just watching for it and being mindful is something we need to have some regular updates on what's going on.
There's there's some good IPR surface water augmentation projects that are coming up, but it takes them longer to plan and be ready to provide a grant package. And that was all our concern was. Real fast, in the prioritization section, we would ask that there be a priority for projects that actually dedicate water to stay in stream and reduce imported flows. Right now in the selection criteria, there's a condition that they have to supplement or augment imported water, but in the prioritization section, it'd be nice if a project was actually dedicating that water stay in stream, that receives some type of priority. And then finally, I mentioned in the conditions section, it talks about the state water project having to supplement or offset it, but it only focuses on DPR and IPR projects. And the way I understand it is that was a Prop 1 condition, but if that's the case, then I would ask that apply to all water supply projects, not just DPR and IPR, but tertiary treated water as well. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask a question about that? Because in the change sheet, you sort of changed the language a bit on the Delta-related language, I just wanted you to talk about that a little, what you were thinking.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a hard thing to prove, of course.
It's very difficult
That's
to
why
prove.
it's somewhat perilous when you're saying, like, compared to what? Because then you have a community whose population, if you take a 30-year view, it's not like people are forswearing taking any more water. They're just displacing more water than they would ask for in the future.
Exactly. And I also want to note that we consider groundwater, freshwater sources very important too. And if we can offset that, that's how we're working with this in the guidelines, that these are more of a potable type approach, that a lot of projects that serve the agricultural community or purple pipe type offset groundwater supplies.
But again, why is it just related to direct potable?
It's also related to indirect potable. It's the two potables.
And then I guess Sean's question is why not the whole thing?
Yeah,
I'm not necessarily saying it should be, because I actually think it's a perilous, or it could be illusory, but I'm not saying it's not good. But again, having struggled with it in other contexts, it's just very hard to nail down.
And we struggled with that too, and we found the best benefit being the potable type of projects, IPR, and someday possibly DPR. And so with the more rural type projects, perhaps being a surface water type offset, but also being a very heavily groundwater type offset, we wanted to maintain that and not do a blanket approach with it.
I think I understand.
Yeah, and I appreciate this discussion, but I think in our Division of Financial Assistance, we're kind of evolving away from getting in the business of prioritizing. You know, we're getting into we're just saying these are good projects, and we're not going to get into a molecular level of accounting, which to me is the opposite of integrated water management. That's disintegration, where we're bogged down on too many details and not taking advantage of the fact that the water, year to year, that water is going to have different value with respect to offsets and that whole water cycle analysis. It's a differential equation, you know, in terms of the analysis. So I think, you know, I certainly respect the concern, but as Dan, you point out in your earlier presentation, the financing on in this area is growing. And at this point, we're not at the point of scarcity on financing, but we need to be mindful of that intelligent multi-benefit application, you know, and that is site-specific and region-specific. I think the folks who are listening in should be assured that we are mindful of those factors when we evaluate. In fact, Division of Financial Assistance in their project selection criteria in the last few years really have emphasized and questioned each project that comes before us. You know, are there more opportunities for multiple benefits to be realized? So it's not just in recycled water. So I really applaud this discussion, but also remind folks that, you know, the prioritization we have to be careful about, because there are a lot of good projects that might not meet all the boxes that would be checked in a multi-benefit setting. It just may be a matter of providing safe drinking water and meeting the human right to water in certain areas and not having the perfect multi-benefit project.
If I can step in, I'm not sure that Sean had the benefit of seeing the change sheet. We had intended for it to get posted, and I think it did not.
I briefly scanned it.
Okay.
I saw that there was the change
that
from
we talked
the
about.
word project to
Right.
just supplies, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also, Sean, I'm excited to hear about this California Water Partnership and your interest in support of integrated water management. I'm looking forward to learning more about what that effort and being a part of it. Thank you.
Becky Hayat, NRDC and the California Water Partnership.
Good morning, Chair Marcus, Vice Chair Spivey Weber, members of the board. My name is Becky Hyatt, and I am a staff attorney with the Natural Resources Defense Council, and I am also speaking today on behalf of the California Water Partnership. NRDC and the rest of the partnership are generally supportive of the revised Prop 1 guidelines for water recycling projects, and we were impressed after meeting with staff recently to discuss the program. We want to thank staff for the amount of time and resources they put in to develop the draft guidelines and for really considering stakeholder input in the process. In particular, we support the construction funding limit and the requirements to comply with CEQA to obtain loan or grant funding. Complying with CEQA is critically important for the future of recycled water projects. It not only provides the public the opportunity to provide input on the siting and development of projects, but it also gives water agencies and other stakeholders the opportunity to educate the public on the safety and environmental benefits of recycled water. We believe staff intends to slightly revise the project selection criteria on pages 11 and 12 of the draft guidelines to clarify that eligible projects are those that offset state water supplies and not just state water project supplies, and to delete language about decreased diversions from the delta. In addition, we believe staff intends to change subpart H of the project elements eligible for funding, also known as the prioritization criteria, to ensure that it is consistent with the requirements of Prop 1, particularly regarding priority for projects that actually result in reduced diversions from the Bay Delta, and we support these changes. Last but not least, we encourage the board and staff to carefully monitor just how much of the funding is spent, and should funding become more limited, to use the prioritization criteria to focus funding on the highest priority projects. Thank you for the opportunity to provide our comments.
Tom Terrell, Chair of the Recycled Water Committee for the Diablo Country Club.
Chair Marcus, Vice Chair, and members of the board, thank you for allowing me to speak today. Also with me today, Jim Brezak, who's been with us since 2010 as our project engineer. I want to just give you a vignette into a project and then that does align with these programs, and we applaud you and staff for undertaking this effort. Along with us, leadership of Diablo Country Club, along with General Manager Roger Bailey of Central Contra Costa Sanitary District, who is our partner in this project and lead agency on CEQA. Started this back in 2010, entered into MOUs with East Bay Mud and Central Sanitary District in 2012, and we've recently updated those from planning to implementation. So we're actively in the process of doing a project that we think fits this program perfectly, if we can say that. It will save over the financing term probably over 2 billion gallons of water. I'm not an acre-foot person, but I think about it in gallons of water relative to my East Bay Mud bill I get each month. And John Coleman, who we are in his district, a very strong supporter of this project. So it's a $12 million project. There is no purple pipe nearby, so it's a scalping plant that we would fund on our property, conform to CEQA, and move forward this year and next year. We already are in conformance with East Bay Mud's 25% from 2013, are already now up to the 40%. And so we're very proud of the effort. But one thing I do want to point out that does look like it will make it difficult for the private side to participate is that it talks a lot about agencies being the applicant, but the guidelines take the 501c3 as the basis of what you need to be as a nonprofit private entity. No problem with that. We have a 501c3 like many do. But under the IRS guidelines, they're very hard when you get to the scale of this kind of dollars to not look at the ownership of the entities that are schools, land trust, ag trusts, universities that fall under 501c7s and C whatever the different numbers are. So we would ask you to keep working with staff to be clear that those agencies and private entities that can work within this program can utilize their nonprofit status. It might be one of these things where we're giving strong support to a project, but then the projects really can't align with it down the road. So we would just encourage you to keep working with staff on that particular item. The counsel we've gotten would suggest that it needs to be fairly broad for 501c designations, of which a lot of people, as I said, schools and universities and land trusts would also need the same kind of issue. We just seem to be ahead of the curve as a private entity with the project that's already designed and ready to start construction soon. Thank you very much for the time.
Bethany, could you
Right, if I could jump in
elaborate?
here. Proposition 1 limits eligibility to nonprofit organizations and then defines that as 501c3s. So it's not anything that staff has control over to be able to expand to a 501c7. The voters approved the limitation to 501c3s.
And I would ask you just to be clear with the public that that will not provide the solution of encouraging private entities that already are owned as 501c7s and others that are being encouraged today to do the right thing, spend $12 billion to save this much water.
You should be sharing this across the way.
Will be. But we wanted to take the opportunity today to give you a vignette into one small project that we think we're getting a lot of calls from other golf courses and other land trusts and others about how did you get to this point, and we thought it would be valuable to have that in the dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I mean, I was in the weeds, but isn't there a possibility to form new 501c3 organizations in response?
There would be, and then we would need to be doing our due diligence on the capacity of that 501c3 to participate in our program. So we wouldn't want, for example, to encourage the formation of shell corporations that have no intention of, for example, repaying a loan. So while 501c3s can certainly be formed with the public interest design, we would have to be doing our due diligence on the back end at the application stage to make sure that it wasn't being formed just to do a run around our regs with no capacity to participate in the program, either to repay the loan or to conduct the O&M for the useful lives of the projects.
Good.
But that is certainly an option, and we've been talking with some universities about that possibility of them forming 501c3s for projects on their campuses.
Right, yeah, the institutional field is pretty ripe for this too. Great, thank you for that. That was important for us to know. Next, Pilar Onate, North Bay Water Reuse Authority and East Valley Water District. Hi.
Just want to express and join in Water Reuse's effusive enthusiasm on 2 points. One is the general support for the guidelines themselves. We think that they're very thoughtful and also fairly reflective of the direction of Proposition 1. And the second point of effusive enthusiasm is that of gratitude to your staff for such incredible outreach and openness and availability for questions. And the third point that I'd just like to raise real quickly is the appreciation of some of the board member comments with respect to appreciation for all types of recycled water program opportunities. In particular, the North Bay Water Reuse Authority has ag, urban, and environmental purpose recycled water projects in line. And so we really would like to maintain that sense of encompassing all types of projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, that's a great way to close the comments. Any further discussion? This could be a historic moment. Savor it. Big deal. I mean, hopefully we'll be looking back in a very short time on really good numbers of what we think are going to be in the ground in the next couple of years, let alone off into the future. But I do think we are at a historic turning point on these issues, and really actually want to thank the governor for getting that bond on the ballot with all this good stuff in it, and the voters for approving it. Because although our state revolving fund is actually quite fantastic, it's really nice to be here at a moment of time where we do have resources to really accelerate a transition whose time is
Even if they're
somewhat
slightly
overdue.
smaller than they were.
Right.
Even though
Mike.
slightly smaller.
Could I make a motion? I would like to move the staff recommendation with the change sheet number 1, and just really echo everyone's congratulations to staff's great effort on this and this great step forward. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all for your time and attention, and not just today, but over the preceding months. We'll now take a 15-minute break.